Thanks for inviting me out to Salesforce.com. Well, who are you?
It's always great to be with the Scobalizer.
Last time we saw each other, we were hanging out in Davos. It was
That's
great.
right. That's right.
So who are you?
I couldn't believe it when the Prime Minister came up and asked you for that information. It was really amazing. And then when Bono came over to you to say, Scobalizer, what's happening? It was really impressive.
If that was only the truth. I think Mike Arrington asked that. So who are you?
I am Marc Benioff. I am the chairman and CEO of Salesforce.com.
You're the man disrupting the world.
Yes, we are a disruptive force on the software industry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just at Microsoft last week and talking with the guys who run Office, and
Yeah.
and they're like, "Oh no, this browser stuff, it's not going anywhere." Right. But you just had a remarkable quarter, and
Thank you.
halfway through the next one. What's going on in the Salesforce world? What are you seeing from your angle point? They're certainly seeing, no problems. Nobody's using browsers for anything.
Right. I think the
Firefox, the servers were down.
The browser is a fad, actually.
Firefox just released 3.0 browser, and 2 hours ago,
Yeah.
3 hours ago. It's a crazy world. So what are you seeing happening from your viewpoint?
Well, I think that what we see is what we have been calling the end of software, for about a decade now. And that really means the end of the software technology model as we traditionally knew it. Loading software from a CD-ROM, or when I started, it was on an EEPROM game cartridge. It's software fundamentally hasn't changed in a long time. It's always been a kind of what we call single-tenant environment that you're responsible for it, you own it, you manage it, you buy it, you upgrade it, you update it, and that business model and that technology model has created a lot of great companies like Microsoft.
Yeah.
But that model is going to die, and it is dying, and a new model is getting created. And that new model is all about the end of software, which is a model of shared services. And it means that you're going to get everything from your spreadsheets and your word processors and your presentation software to your CRM, to your ERP, to your collaboration, content, community, to your platforms, how you build applications, are all going to be delivered as a service, and that's a pretty big change from where we've been.
And being delivered as a service doesn't just mean into the browser, right?
It doesn't mean just into the browser, because the whole concept of a browser is changing. Look what you just dropped on the table here. You left your iPhone there. Yep. And of course, this is an important device, and this device needs services off the network, of course, and I have a computer over there. It needs services off the network, and or the mobile phone that you just turned off needs services off the network, and it's really all about the network. It's all about the internet and the ability to deliver from that network applications and value to either the developer or the end user to achieve a new level of productivity and a much lower cost than ever before, and a much higher level of empowerment. It's not just about being here in San Francisco. It's very easy. We can afford anything. We can buy any computer, buy any piece of software. But all those developers around the world who are now empowered by the network is extremely exciting.
Yeah. When I was telling people I was going to come and interview you, some of the pundits in the enterprise world were like, "You don't know anything. I don't know anything about enterprise," which is partially true. But the thing that they were trying to get at was, there's no way that this world is going away from the Microsofts and the Oracles.
Right,
and
right. Yeah. Well,
what's your answer to that?
Well, this is the year that Salesforce.com will pass over $1 billion in revenue, and we just delivered a quarter with more than 50% growth, and what's exciting about that is that we are the most exciting new enterprise software company around. I think that the problem with this kind of the status quo companies that you just mentioned or others is that they get vested into the past and they try to block innovation. And the thing that I've always really, if there's one thing I would say I dislike in our industry, it's those individuals and those companies that try to stop the future. And the people that I really love are people who are trying to create the future, you know, like our friend Steve Jobs, who's doing an unbelievable thing
at the
here.
same time, he tries to block things too, doesn't he?
But that process, however, is kind of the exciting part of innovation overall, that because people can see the possibility, they want all those things.
Yeah.
And also from that same perspective, you know, we see, you know, like you just talked about Mozilla, you know, thank God there's Mozilla, because we have innovation in the browser.
Yeah.
You know, otherwise we again have Microsoft once again trying to block innovation or stop innovation like they have. They continue to try to use their monopoly on the desktop to stop innovation in the industry. And that's not good for anybody. It's certainly not good for us here, and it's not good for any of the entrepreneurs in the world that we're advocates for. And you know, we want to see a new industry get created where there are no controls like that, that instead, you know, everything's available directly off the internet.
Interesting. Where does Salesforce go from here? I mean, you know, Salesforce is a happening entity. It's having great quarters, great growth. Where do you take it from here? What's the next thing for Salesforce?
Well, for the last 10 years, what we've really been focused on, as you know, is customer relationship management, starting with a killer app, which was Salesforce automation, and then adding marketing, adding call center support. We also recently added a content management application that competes with Documentum and FileNet. We have an ideas application that we recently deployed for companies like Dell and Starbucks that lets them collaborate with their customers. And we have a variety of applications that we've built here that we sell to customers. And that's what we've really been doing for the last 10 years. But while we've been doing that, we've been building a platform that we use internally to build these apps, and that we now are encouraging our customers and ISVs to build their own apps. So our infrastructure as a service, our database as a service, our integration capabilities as a service, our logic as a service, our user interface management tools as a service, that, you know, instead of buying, you know, SQL Server and IIS and NT and Visual Basic and all those things that we kind of had 20 years ago, that we're going to deliver those kind of ideas of databases and user interface development tools, et cetera, but deliver them as multi-tenant shared services. Exactly like, you know, we've had from eBay and Amazon and Google in terms of killer apps. But I think now you're really seeing, certainly you see it with Google Apps, that, you know, you can do all kinds of stuff, but, you know, how about if you could build it yourself? Wouldn't that be fantastic? And so we're really excited about that. We call that entire initiative Force.com, and we're encouraging developers to come to us and say, hey, you know what, you can build on our infrastructure. We've spent a lot of time building this because we had to, because there was no infrastructure like this available when we started. Otherwise, we would have used an infrastructure like this. There's no reason to recreate it. And so this whole concept is really what we call platform as a service. And, you know, it's happening. You're wearing it actually on your T-shirt, right?
Yeah.
Google App Engine is platform as a service, right? Amazon S3 and EC2 is platform as a service.
Yeah.
Microsoft is rumored to be building something called Red Dog, you know, to compete with Amazon, because they're not happy about all the developers going to Amazon, so they're once again forced into innovation, you know, instead of delivering it organically. And a platform as a service, and you see some great new companies emerging also in platform as a service, like Wavemaker and like so many others, that you're like, whoa, what's happening? You know, that platforms, you know, like you traditionally had to buy like the BA platform, you know, and you'd bill on the BA application server. You're going to just
you don't go outside of that platform, really.
Right. Well, it's a whole different idea because it's integrated with the hardware and with reliability and scalability and availability. And
are you opening up fast enough? Some of the comments I saw on Twitter and friend feed was, hey, ask Mark about why he's not doing this or not doing that, you know, not opening up in some places. Do you think you're opening enough to this trend that's happening?
We probably aren't moving as fast as we need to be moving because there's so much to do, and so it's hard to satisfy everybody. But you'll probably see some exciting announcements on Monday at our Tour de Force conference, which will be in Santa Clara with Google.
Yeah.
And
this video probably will get up on Monday. So, can you tell us what you're announcing there with Google?
Well, I think that, one of the I won't tell you the specifics, you'll have to read about it online, but I will tell you the general idea. In the past, platforms have been something that you had to kind of pick a platform and stay with a platform. So you'd pick BA, or you'd pick, SQL Server, or you'd pick this application, or you'd pick this capability, and that is what you would build with in perpetuity.
Yep.
But the reality is, and we kind of saw this, 4 or 5 years ago when we started to see mashups happening, right? Yep. That's kind of at the client side. There was a level of integration happening. And
putting Twitter messages on top of Google Maps.
Google Maps is like the big. Everyone's got the Google Maps example, right? So, but I think you're going to see platforms mashing up, and I think that's the power, is that you can choose as a developer to build an application and draw from these different capabilities, so that all of our APIs can have a high level of capability to work with each other. And that's really what we're working on with Google and so many others to achieve these kind of higher levels of cooperation and collaboration. You've already seen it where we've incorporated Google's AdWords inside our architecture. We've now incorporated all of Google's apps inside our architecture. And now you're going to see us working to, of course, including their platform itself inside our architecture. So it broadens our ability to talk to our enterprise customers, because that's really who we're focused on, in terms of platform as a service. We're really focused today on those enterprise customers and enterprise developers, people who want to sell into the enterprise to deliver a business solution. And this whole concept of platform as service is certainly the most exciting thing I've ever worked on in my career.
Why is that?
Well, I think that, when I came into the industry, the concept of, a transaction, what is a transaction? The pioneering work of people like Jim Gray or Cod and Date, or so many people who worked on the early concept of SQL databases and the System R projects at IBM, this kind of thing. The whole concept of a transaction, the whole concept of a relational database, and at a certain level even a lot of the concept of what is an operating system, what is an application server, what is a user interface development environment. A lot of that work had really been done, and done very, very well. And you, of course, have seen the commercialization of those technologies by IBM, but also by a lot of other companies. I think that you really see now that there's kind of another paradigm that's emerging, that's these services. And even though they borrow, certainly they use the concept of what is a transaction or what is a user interface, how they actually manifest that is radically different. That the multi-tenant architecture means that we can do a lot of this hard work, the integration, the scalability, the reliability, the availability, all of the power of this, and then we delegate this back to you.
Okay.
So we give you our power through the multi-tenant architecture. We're delegating it back to you as the developer, so you're standing on the shoulder of giants, and you can leverage, the hundreds of millions of dollars that we've spent in our infrastructure, and that's
your
the power.
developers don't need to know much about how to work with a relational database anymore, right? They live at a higher level now and integrate that, and they can get a lot
But they can
better.
drop down in our system if they want to work and they want to code and they want to run their code on our servers. We'll let them do that. If they want to program deeply in our relational structure or build those relationships, you can now do that in Force.com. You can either take the non-programmatic approach, or you can take the programmatic approach, and that's very cool. And I think the other thing that's really interesting is, and we've been out there evangelizing. I've been on this tour called Tour de Force, and I've been, I'm going all over the world with this message that I'm kind of, just get dumped on you. But
well, I'm seeing it all over. I mean, I'm seeing these companies come out of the woodwork. Like Mogulus told me, they don't even own a server. Their entire infrastructure is somewhere else. They use Amazon. But it's a crazy world now.
This is the future.
And now I met another group of kids who just started a business for $8,000,
Well, thank God they're not using the Microsoft infrastructure. That's the whole point, right? Because once you get
well,
in
they
there,
were actually using
you have to upgrade and update, and you have to keep doing all those, it's like an endless loop.
Yeah.
And Gartner just published the Application Server Magic Quadrant, which is their kind of ranking of 40 or 50 companies and where they are in the industry, and they put us in the visionary column in the top right-hand corner for application servers. We're the first service ever put on the Application Server Magic Quadrant. So that means I'm doing my job.
Yeah.
Because, well, you know, it's not just that we're a leader, you know, we're in the top right-hand quadrant for CRM, but that we are in the application server magic quadrant for application, you know, application server visionaries. And that, you know, is where we want to be in the top right-hand column. You know, we want to be in the leader.
Well, who's going to disrupt you? What keeps you up at night? Is it the Zohos? Is it the Facebooks that are going to come out with a new idea that might come in and disrupt you the way you are disrupting Microsoft right now? Or?
Well, of course, the big difference for us is that when we talk about disruption on our side, we picked a pretty big paradigm shift, right? Yeah. So that is a radically lower cost and in terms of order of magnitude easier to use. And that's the paradigm that we're creating. And in that world, we have a lot of people who are now coming in, of course, and want to compete with us or cooperate with us or partner with us. And that's exciting. But that's in our world that we've created. They have to play, you know, in our game, basically. You know, we're the ones with the no software logo, you know, for 10 years. So, hey, we welcome all comers, of course, and that's what makes us, you know, get up in the morning is competition. But at the end of the day, we've invested more, we have more customer success, we've delivered more value, we've delivered more revenue than I think any other software service provider in the world. And now we want to really work in helping to define and deliver platform as a service as well.
Now, what's the challenge for you to build out the platform? What are you seeing when you work with your coworkers?
The number one challenge is consciousness, and of course, you know, we're still a relatively small company against a Microsoft, right, yeah. Or against another, you know, enterprise software player, and we have to change consciousness. So we have to let people know it is possible to do this. Yeah. And that's extremely, that is what's fun, you know, because a lot of people, when they walk into our seminar, you know, they didn't know it was possible, and then they walk out of our seminar, they know it is possible. Yeah. And we're seeing tremendous demand increase from ISVs and from our customers to build these apps.
Human behavior is really hard to change, isn't it? I see that when I travel. I'm sitting next to tons of people who are using Windows 2000 still,
right,
and think their entire world is either Excel or PowerPoint, right?
That's right.
You know, and that's all they know. They don't know that there's other things out there. You know? How do you get to them? Because that's really when you're going to see you become a $10 billion or $100 billion company, right?
Well, you know, you probably know before this I was at Oracle for 13 years. Yeah. And so when I started at Oracle about 23 years ago, you know, we were a very small company, about $50 million in revenue, and we'd walk into a CIO's office and they'd say, well, you know, Mark, you're a nice kid, you're 21 years old, this is nice for you to tell me all about relational databases and how you're going to be this big successful company, but we're standardizing on, you know, Digital Equipment Corporation, DEC, you know, and we're going to be using their VMS architecture and their RDB system and all of this. And of course, here we are now, you know, most people have never even heard of DEC. They were the second largest computer company in the world, you know, only, you know, about 2 decades ago. So in a decade or 2 decades, things can change. One of my good friends who's at Microsoft, David Vaskovich, who's their CTO of Enterprise, says, you know, people are always overestimating what you can do in a year and underestimating what you can do in a decade. Yep. And that's really true when you're riding one of these big paradigm shifts. And certainly that's what both Microsoft and Oracle did to IBM in regards to client-server computing. Yep. They said, you know, get off the mainframe, it's lower cost, it's easier to use if you go to the PC. And so our message is, hey, get off the PC and get onto the network because it's lower cost and easier to use than the PC. It doesn't necessarily mean, by the way, that, you know, no one has mainframes anymore. There's still a lot of mainframes.
IBM still has a lot of people working on mainframes, don't they?
That's right. And it doesn't necessarily mean that there won't be client-server computing out there. But in terms of new applications or new investments or new value creation for companies or for developers, I think this model is exciting. And certainly if you're starting a company today, you know, you're going to look at this model and you're going to look at how do you pioneer this approach.
Yeah, I'm just reading some of the friend feed and Twitter messages I got. Susan Beebe says, thank him for the robust API, one of the best out there.
Well, we really have worked hard because when we started our API, web services was very nascent. Yeah. And this is kind of just an aside, but we really thought that we need to work hard to building strong, whether it's XML support or SOAP support or WSDL support from an API perspective, so that developers not only can build well on us, but also build their own APIs. Today, we'll do more than 1 billion API calls this month into our services. That is other servers calling us, other servers or network services calling us for information 1 billion times this month. Wow. And that's through that API. It's not just how we...
That's unleashing a whole new range of services that I didn't even perceive. We just interviewed SlideRocket, and they had a Salesforce.com chart in a presentation that was live updated. Very cool, calling your APIs and getting data out of it.
And they can also embed their technology, and they do, right inside our servers, so that we can actually host and run a lot of that for their customers. And that's a great example. And there's a lot of other examples of software developers who have built very robust integrations into our service. It really comes in 3 forms. It's, of course, desktop integration is extremely important, and that would include mobile integration. And of course, we do a great job on the iPhone as well. We were one of the 4 companies profiled on the SDK launch with Apple. It's traditional legacy enterprise integration, so it's integrating with all those Oracle and SAP system and Exchange systems and all of that. And then really the third thing is this next generation of services. So not just the Google Maps, but also being so robust that new companies could come along and easily integrate with us. I saw a great new company last night who just built an application on us called Ribbit, R-I-B-B-I-T-T. That was very cool, and it's a whole telephony infrastructure built on top of our system, like what we've done with Cisco, like what we've done with Avaya and others. But their approach to computer-based telephony is extremely different, and was really compelling.
One last question. Steve Anderson says, so much time is wasted entering contact information for people we are all selling to, communicating with. Seems like the next big step for CRM is to do away with the data entry of people's info and go to searching for people who already exist in the cloud. What is the most promising work in this direction? That gets to like Zobni. I don't know if you've seen Zobni, but they let me click on an email and see all this stuff from around the web about that person. That trend is pretty interesting. Are you seeing the same trend from inside Salesforce.com?
Well, I think we are. We see integration with a lot of traditional data sources like Hoover's and Dun & Bradstreet. A lot of our customers do that.
Yep.
Of course, integrating with the web is extremely important. And how data entry evolves, that is something that we're very open to and can be flexible for. But at the end of the day, that will be an enhancement to our service rather than a change, at our core architecture.
Yeah. Any last thing you want to tell the world at this time on this Firefox day?
Oh, I'm on the Scopalizer blog, trying to find out what's going on.
What impact does the new? Well, we talked a little bit about the new Firefox. Does the new Firefox give you capabilities that you're looking on turning on in the next week or two?
Well, I really I like the new Firefox because it's kind of the best of all worlds. It's everything from the tab-based environments that Microsoft has pioneered with Explorer to some of their high-performance capabilities that they've been working on for several years. So I'm very excited about that. I think our customers will really benefit from that work. Of course, they've got the portability of their platform, which neither Microsoft nor Apple seem to have fully achieved. And so I think that that is a very compelling application that will be basis for a lot of innovation on the web. I think for us going forward, we're continuing to focus on our core applications and making our customers successful, and then really working on kind of the platform and making ISVs successful. We've already seen a lot of ISVs like Coda, who's the 2nd largest ERP company in Europe, has now converted their ERP suite over to native Force.com implementation. We're going to see that on Monday at our event. But we're also going to see a lot of other big ISVs, a lot of names that you know of, who are moving to Force.com, and I think that will be really cool.
Thank you very much.
Good to see you. Thanks for being here. Really appreciate it.